Let's go ahead and plow right into this, guys. As I said, I'm feeling a little under the weather, so I do apologize if I'm a little more low-key today. But we'll be plowing right into some good stuff. The drama will take care of it. Anyway, it's interesting. I haven't watched this clip yet. Gavin, you brought it up this morning. I figured it would be a good topic for us to both react to, obviously. But off the bat, I'm like, of all things to attack AOC for, Jill Stein is what you're going to go for. We'll see. We'll see. I'll reserve my commentary until we hear from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, let's take a look at this, guys. TYT had a bit of a panel discussion concerning the AOC versus Jill Stein situation, which we've talked about a little bit, including on the show yesterday with Griffin. But I thought they had some interesting comments here that we can react to and, stimulate some more discourse, because this is an interesting situation. And I have criticisms of both AOC and Jill Stein. So, it's interesting for that reason, I think. But yeah, let's take a look here.
Yeah. I agree and disagree with all of them. So let me break it down. Number one, so Angela Rye, there's one thing she said that I didn't love, where she was like, you ran against the first black governor of Massachusetts. Why? Was no one supposed to run against him because he's the first black governor? And then she pointed out that Jill Stein ran against Obama. Yeah, he was the president at the time. And now against Harris, she's the Democratic nominee. Like, I need to make it racial. Jill Stein's not racist. That's crazy. Okay, so, but on the other hand, did she lose all those elections? Yes, she lost all those elections. And has she built power over in those 4-year periods between losing the presidential ones? To AOC's point, unfortunately, they haven't. They've stalled. And so my main issue with the
people in
third party runs, the Green Party, et cetera.
What were you doing 9 months ago?
And I've said this a billion times. Guys, if you get it up to 20, 30 points, you're in the ballgame. Shoot, if you even got it to 10 points. And I know they're gonna do what they did to RFK Jr. and be totally unfair to you, et cetera, right? And you could say, hey, you could hate RFK Jr., but the brother got up to 12 points in a general election. That gets you into a debate, et cetera.
Homies,
the Green Party's never gotten there.
Says about him.
So, I like a lot of their policies. I want them, but if you're not building power and you're not getting to a point where you give us a reason to be able to support you, to push it further, and at the end you're always at 2 points, and then you say, all right, now give me the 2 points in a super close election, I don't love that. And that's why I always give people an opportunity. We've interviewed Jill Stein many times, even when mainstream media reporters yell at us for it. I'm like, wait, I thought you guys were reporters. What do you care? Right?
We did a town hall for her.
Yeah, we did a town hall for her. Yeah. I interview every third party candidate. I give them every opportunity in the world. Andrew Yang got one of his first interviews here on this show. On and on it goes. But at some point, you got to push past your 2.5 points. Now, having said that, now let me turn to AOC. Predatory, that's a weird word. Why is that predatory? What a weird word to use. I'll tell you why, Cenk.
I honestly, he was spitting so hard up until what I imagine is going to come next, right? Because he said everything correct. And do you know why AOC used the word predatory, Cenk? For the litany of reasons you just already agreed with, right? The fact that the Greens aren't building power during the 4 years between presidential elections. The fact that they aren't going to get anywhere close to 5%. That 2% that they will grab is going to be huge stakes. And then you have advocates, surrogates out here telling you that's the whole point. The whole point is to stick it to Kamala, to stick it to AOC, to make sure we have 4 more years of Trump. That's your strategy as a leftist. Your strategy as a leftist is not to run a serious campaign. It's to basically decide that your only path to relevance is to pretend that you're the biggest champion for ceasefire right now, acting as if you're somehow a solution for these desperate people, right? That's why AOC calls it predatory, because she knows she has no chance. She knows she's co-opting people who are desperate to support her, to make change, and it's just pissing in the wind. It's just taking people who have legitimate grievances, absolutely correct frustrations, absolute correct, dismay at the way that their government is operating overseas, right? But she's just here to soak up the sun for a while and then retreat back off into the sunset. I genuinely believe that, and it's the fact that she pretends that she's the solution for Gaza or that, it kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm so hard on Jill herself as you are. To me, the people I find really annoying are the third-party supporters, the Jill Stein supporters who shame everyone else.
The people she employs.
Who doesn't? Well, yeah, some of which are her surrogates. My point is just I don't think there is Like, I think Jill Stein, if you just view her as like an educator, like I said, like a podcast host or someone that'll pop up on CNN every once in a while, I really don't have any issue with her. I do think she's really intelligent. I think she's really articulate, and she does a great job of educating people specifically about what's happening in Gaza and the genocide. So, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As I said, my main issue with the Green Party at this point in this election cycle is that they're asking people to vote for them. If Jill Stein was just going out and talking and giving interviews and educating people, like I said, about the Zionist policies of the Democratic Party, then yeah, that's great. More people do need to know about that. A lot of Americans' heads are totally in the sand, and they're not even considering the foreign policy ramifications of their vote for either party. So, like, I don't think that Jill Stein's a bad person or anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if I feel that.
I don't think she's a bad person, dude, but I think at some point, the way that she presents herself, the way that it all comes about, it reeks of being selfish in a way where it's like you're like running as a humanist, and it rubs me the wrong way, because what she's like, the serious people who are advocating for a ceasefire, the uncommitted movement, the people who were desperate to get on the stage at the DNC to reach the American people, to force Kamala to change her hand, right?
Well, obviously they weren't going to let a Green Party on the
No,
stage.
But where was the Green Party echoing that? Where was the Green Party uplifting those uncommitted voices? Where were those people? You know, they were 45 minutes away at a church in Logan Square, okay, but basically circle jerking the Green Party, right? Which is what that's their whole intention. That's their plan.
That's our world, circle jerking.
Exactly. But we are not out here telling people that we're the only stand against genocide. Like, oh, genocide's not a red line for you if you don't support my president candidacy. Like, come on.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And it's a really shameful strategy on the part of Green Party people who try to act like everyone who doesn't agree with their political strategy supports genocide. Like, are you kidding me? That's crazy. That's absolutely insane. And as I said, even that's not a true red line for them. Most of the people right now that are passionately supporting Jill Stein would be doing so 100% regardless of the genocide in Gaza. And they would be shaming everyone, again, regardless of whether that was happening or not. They would just pick a different issue: climate change, Ukraine, World War III, whatever. You know, they would have something. This isn't a red line for them either, which is something that I do find annoying. And where I will agree with you, Zach, I don't know if, and we're going to get back to the TYT video in a second. Like I said, I have mixed feelings because I do think that Jill Stein is a good person. I think her heart's in the right place. I think she's made a lot of political mistakes, especially in this election cycle, that have kneecapped her campaign to the point that it's not worth taking seriously. And this was the number one decision made by the Jill Stein campaign that I think was, you know, completely inexcusably stupid. Let's take a look. So this person on Twitter said, "This is why I don't take the Green Party even remotely seriously. They rejected a strong Palestinian American running mate for Jill Stein because they wanted to use their leverage rather than running for vanity." And I don't think we talked about this enough when it happened.
Yeah.
But before Butch Ware became Jill Stein's running mate, Nora Erakat, I apologize if I mispronounced that, a human rights attorney and professor who's Palestinian American, offered to join the Jill Stein campaign, but it was under the condition that the Stein campaign withdraw from the election should the Democrats secure a permanent ceasefire and offensive arms embargo. So again, not just like a little pat on the head or anything. That's a serious concession if they were to have gotten it. Right? Permanent ceasefire, offensive arms embargo. That's serious. If the Green Party actually somehow achieved those concessions and got the Democrats to actually do a permanent ceasefire and an offensive arms embargo, then basically for the first time in my entire life, you could actually point to something that the Green Party did and say, hey, look, their strategy worked. They actually affected change. They actually made the world a better place via their existence. But instead, as Jason Call, Jill Stein's campaign manager, puts it, we rejected it. And, you know, he lists some reasons. I'm not saying they're all completely invalid. I get that strategic disagreements can exist. But to me, when I saw this, I was like, are you kidding me? Not only is Nora, not only does she have a lot more name recognition and a much bigger following than Butch Ware, she could have brought a lot more credibility and attention to the ticket. But also, I totally agree with her strategy. I think that would make a Green Party ticket worth supporting. If you could say, hey guys, like, yeah, we're going to run this campaign. We are going to take away votes from the Democrats. We are going to threaten your victory, but we'll also withdraw if you do what we want you to do. If you secure a permanent ceasefire and offensive arms embargo, that would actually legitimize us and our standing. It would actually mean that we got something out of this other than just 1-2 at most %, only to then go away for the next 4 years.
Absolutely. So this is what I'm talking about. What they are doing is so clear, guys. It is co-opting a serious global crisis that a lot of people are paying attention to, and they want to use that for their own gain. They want to use that for their own benefit, right? But when the rubber meets the road, it's about uplifting the Green Party. It's about uplifting Jill Stein. It's about uplifting the legacy that she's going to have, right?
Yep. And by the way, I wanted to address this too, because someone said, like, why are you talking about this? The Green Party topic is a waste of time, bro. This is the most niche political possible discourse imaginable. And guess what show this is? It's the Vanguard. And guess what we talk about? Niche political drama that no one else knows about, cares about, or probably even understands. You know what I'm saying? That's the point of our show. We get in the weeds. We talk about these intra niche left wing ideological fights. That's our bread and butter, bro. And this is an interesting conversation, at least in my opinion. I also wanted to respond to this real quick because I don't know the specific question or the specific clip in question that you're talking about. Benjamin, did you see the clip where Jill Stein's VP accidentally said the only purpose of the Green Party is to hurt Democrats? Like I said, I haven't seen that actual clip, so I can't verify if that's literally what he said. But what I do know is that a bunch of Jill Stein surrogates basically say this exact same thing all over social media constantly, unchecked, and seemingly she doesn't care. She agrees, I don't know, or just doesn't see what they're saying. But yeah, a ton of people that are either on her payroll or that are at least being elevated by her campaign, yeah, they're tweeting shit like, I hope Kamala loses, that way, you know, people get triggered more by Jill Stein and stuff like that. And one guy said, you know, I'm glad Jamal Bowman lost, because if he had won, then he too would be attacking Jill Stein, just like AOC. So to them, again, it really is more about protecting the reputation of Jill Stein and the Green Party than it is about having anyone in Congress who actually shares our anti-Zionist politics or any of our progressive leanings. I'm not saying Jamal Bowman's perfect, but come on.
Well, were you predatory when you ran against Joe Crowley? I just don't get it. It's very off-putting, to put it like that. And then she says, well, look, of course I agree with a two-party criticism of the two-party system. This is not about that. No, I think this is about that. And no, I'm not that familiar with your criticism of the two-party system. She says, oh, I was on the Working Families Party ballot and I liked Democratic Socialists, though they've had a falling out now because of Israel-Palestine issues, etc. Yeah, but you were in New York. The Working Families Party has a ballot line in New York. It's very powerful, or powerful enough in New York.
And I do have to agree with Cenk here that it was total BS for AOC to be like, you can't say I'm not it for third parties. I am part of one, the Working Families Party, which freaking Andrew Cuomo also ran on the ballot of. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not the same thing as a real third party. And I'm not anti-Working Families Party. I'm not, you know, I'm honestly not knowledgeable enough about their operation to have like a super strong opinion on it, but it's not the same. And AOC was being pretty dishonest when she said that.
Yeah.
York, etc. So no, you're now, the part that Jill Stein's right about is AOC is serving the role of the attack dog. So she's the one that goes out there, has the assignment of make sure you attack the third party people and drive them out of the race. She's been doing that now for a couple of months.
So I'm not saying there's no chance that's true. I mean, who knows? The Democratic Party is a shadowy cabal, and there's lots of crazy psyops that go on. So I'm not saying it's impossible that AOC got her orders and decided to, you know, come out here and take the hatchet to the Jill Stein supporters and all that stuff on command. But I also do think it's very possible that AOC is just very online. She spends a lot of time on Twitter, and that's where almost the entirety of the third party movement exists, online and on Twitter. That's where most of the vocal third party supporters are going to be found, and that's where most of them are going to be like virtue signaling and in your replies, specifically if you're AOC. So I think it's also possible that AOC just got sick of seeing those Green Party reply guys every time she said anything, and then finally decided to come out and speak her mind on the subject matter. So I think that's equally possible as the Democrats sending her out as their attack dog. What do you think?
Yeah, there's no way that they did that. And it's embarrassing and sad and pathetic that they're suggesting that, and that Cenk would give lip service to that. The fact that you think that Democrats ordered AOC to go out and attack a candidate that would only be amplified by her engagement with AOC. That's why she milks it like a cow. That's why all these people won't stop talking about it. Gavin calls it their own personal 9/11. Well, guess what? If it's their own personal 9/11, then they're Dick Cheney and Halliburton shareholders because they're trying to cash the cow in. You know what I'm saying, guys? That's what's happening right now. No, do I have tons of disagreements with AOC? Yes, I've talked about the Obamification of AOC longer than just about any other fucking YouTube channel, okay? We have been here to correctly criticize her, to fairly criticize her, but we still live in reality. It was based as fuck when she ran against Joe Crowley. She did it with support. She did it with a movement behind her. And guess what? She still has support. She has the actual base of the fucking community in her district. And you guys can say that's stupid. You can say it's wrong, but she's never in jeopardy of losing that fucking seat. Okay. And that's the one clear difference between her and every single campaign Jill Stein's ever run. But no, of course not. The Democrats don't have to tell her to do that. The Democrats aren't even scared of Jill Stein. That's why they keep going back to the barrel of the 2016 talking points, right? And the only reason that the people on the Breakfast Club brought up those talking points were because that was the last time Jill Stein was relevant. That was the last time they thought about her. They thought that we just didn't see her because she couldn't make the rounds during COVID. And now here we are again, you know, time to Jill Stein again. And they're like, oh, I remember we had you on and you were talking about Russia, Russia, Russia. And then she looks at a room full of black folks and is like, you know what? You guys are all repeating white supremacist talking points. What you should really be doing is listening and voting for me. Like, oh, that's not how you be an effective politician.
Yep. Also, I'm pretty sure Mike Gravel made it very clear the entire time that his whole entire campaign was a publicity stunt.
He also ran in the Democratic primary.
Yeah, and he said that he had no intention of ever actually becoming president. He really just wanted to raise issues, which again, I have no issue with at all. I think that it's perfectly legitimate to exploit the presidential election cycle as a media opportunity, as a way to get your message into the discourse and infuse it into the mainstream. That's all fine. Again, my main issue is just when they start shaming everyone who doesn't buy into their little charade.
Also, Mike Gravel never ran third party. So this is like really apples to oranges.
Yeah, I think they're just saying like another long shot issue-based campaign, you know.
I guess. He'd also been a senator. He'd read the Pentagon Papers. And do you guys want to play this game? Because you'll lose it every single time.
Yeah.
The establishment, the leadership gives you that role. So she's not in leadership, John is right, but she's obviously working with leadership. And her role is attack anyone that might look like you, because not is in terms of appearance, but in terms of progressive, etc. Because we need a progressive to attack other progressives. I wouldn't have taken that role, to be honest with you. You know, the role I want is to attack Trump. But okay, if you want to nip at Jill Stein's heels, enjoy. I'm sure that you know
how much time
you
does
fit
Jill
into the
Stein
system, etc. Yeah. Last thing I'll say,
criticizes Trump.
I guess John Idarola is about to go on that tear.
Trump, to be fair.
Okay, great. Happy to hear it. So I know that you know, Just Democrats is the main organization that helped get her elected, and then afterwards, Justice Democrat asked her to help other people run against incumbents, just like she did. Why? Because you have to build power in those 4 years.
This is true.
And in fact, in Congress, obviously, every 2 years. And if you're not constantly primarying incumbents, you're not going to be able to build up enough power in the building to swing votes and make a difference. And as soon as she became an incumbent, I'm not saying that she didn't support any more primaries, she did. But she became so much more hesitant to support anyone running against an incumbent because
This is totally true. We had Eva Putsova on, who ran in Arizona against a blue dog, like complete Southern Democrat from Arizona, right? You guys can do the fucking math. He was like John McCain, but a Democrat, okay? And Eva Putsova came on and let us know that not only was she unable to get any assistance from AOC or the likes of that, but her opponent had been able to receive assistance in the primary race. AOC actually gave money that her constituents had donated to her to this blue dog Democrat. I forget what the fuck this stupid guy's name was, but he ran against Eva Putsova, who was a progressive. I believe she was an immigrant woman, if not the daughter of immigrants. We had a really good conversation with her way back in the day, but everything that Cenk is saying is true.
Became
in this
her
very
colleagues.
niche instance right here. About
so the part about building up power, I don't know. Let me see it because I haven't seen it yet.
I agree with you on a lot of points. I think she definitely did the call out rather than call in. She was, on her couch doing an Instagram live, and she decided to not be diplomatic, and it came off really bad. It came off. I don't think she is the dubbed attack dog by the Democrats. I'd push back on that, but I definitely think that it came off like she was punching left. And I think that when you are a leftist and when you're a progressive like we are, who do want a parliamentarian system, a more democratic system in this country, ranked choice voting, amazing reforms that would make this country far more representative, you cannot gloss over I've been critical of the two-party system, because that rings a little bit Nancy Pelosi saying, I've been for Medicare for all back in my day. We always have to keep on stating the case why we live in this two-party corporate duopoly, and it's awful, and we need to fight against it. While simultaneously, and I agree, be strategic with our vote. And I've said this on my show, people can check it out, but I dug deep around this. And specifically, I want to talk about really quickly the angle around ceasefire and Gaza, because I think one thing that does feel slightly predatory to me, although it is a harsh word, is that Jill Stein is swallowing up a lot.
See, I had not seen this, but that means that is exactly what she's giving off. And I think AOC is correct to call her out. So while I do agree with Francesca, as I believe this woman's name, that AOC does need to double down and talk more about the pitfalls of the two-party system, I agree that that's exactly what Jill Stein is doing. Is she is preying on the suffering of these people to try and get them under her campaign, and she knows she's not going to do anything about it. And after the election's over, she's not going to do anything to fight with these people for a ceasefire.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's true. I think Jill Stein shows up at like protests. She was at Standing Rock. She's always been someone who shows up at protests and like is with the right cause. I don't think she just sits in her fucking bedroom like drinking wine in between election years. But
is she moving the needle? Is she like, that's what I mean. It just seems like cosplay. No, I'm not running for president, Gavin.
I know. I'm just saying, like, lots of. I mean, yeah, clearly, no, not really. But I think the predatory thing is weird coming from AOC specifically, because, like, bro, you're supporting the Democrats. They're the ones doing the genocide. That's not predatory, but it is predatory to do what Jill Stein is doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get the logic behind what you're saying. But I do think it's like, if you're going to be AOC and you're going to be a literal member of the Democratic establishment at this point, doing cheerleading for the Democratic Party and then calling Green Party people like Jill Stein predatory. I mean,
you're right. It does come across as like, why did you even bother to take the question? I will give you that, because it does just, it doesn't need to be done. But on the other hand, I feel like it's clear, and I didn't reiterate this up front of my mistake. The Democrats are also massively, massively predatory. Every single last one of them, predatory as fuck. What strikes me as different about Jill Stein is that I don't think it's good to do what she's doing right now with it's particularly in regard to Gaza. That's made me pretty upset.
Yeah.
Of the people who cannot stomach voting for Kamala Harris because she will not break from Joe Biden's policies in Gaza. And I understand that. However, one of those people who is being hounded to support Jill Stein's candidacy is Ruah Roman. Ruah Roman is the Palestinian Georgia elected official who was slated possibly to speak at the DNC, but was never, of course, given the opportunity to, as we now know. Well, Roman had a much better live than AOC and spoke exactly about why she's not jumping ship on the Democratic Party. Why? It's because she sees progress on the issue of Palestine within the Democratic Party. She's not talking about Kamala Harris and what's in her heart and what. She's talking about within the Georgia state legislature. She's talking about at the DNC with people wearing pins and keffiyehs and all kinds of supportive statements, and the massive applause that anytime anyone mentions ceasefire or the dignity of Palestinians, that she sees that this issue and all the people that have been in the streets, all the students that have crushed it, despite being crushed themselves, they are having an impact. And so Ruah Roman's like, why would I just bounce and leave this ship to make this sort of, again, kind of protest vote stand that truly will be and is, it's a spoiler vote. I'm sorry, y'all. You can vote Jill.
See, I don't like. It's kind of hard to argue with Francesca, even like she's trying to give every benefit of the doubt to the Green Party. Like, even if you are a diehard Green Party voter and you are fully interested in voting for the Green Party, like that's your right. You could do that. As she says, I agree with that. Gavin's voted for the Green Party twice. I never shame him for it. I don't believe in doing that. But what I will tell you right now is that she's spitting facts when she says all the serious people, all of the people who actually care about getting a ceasefire done in Gaza, they're working within the Democratic Party because they know time is of the essence. Gavin used to always bring up the Green Party. They used to run on vote like your life depends on it because it does, right? Well, thousands and thousands and thousands of people's lives depend on this ceasefire. And you running on a fucking LARP to pretend like you're the only serious one, it just takes the eye off of the serious ball. And I think that's what frustrates me. And so for anybody, like it's crazy to be like, this is my number one issue. I want it to stop more than anything in the world. Let me direct all of my energy towards something that I know will not work.
Yeah, I mean, that's ultimately why I eventually had to abandon my support of the third party movement, at least in this election cycle, because if they can't even convince me that 5% is possible, then yeah, I mean, that's what it amounts to. It's just a protest vote that that'll just get washed into the sands of time by the next election cycle. Like no one's going to be talking about the Jill Stein movement after November because it's not an actual movement. It is just a bunch of people that are planning on casting a protest vote. Like I said, you might as well vote for Vermin Supreme. He also is against the genocide.
Yep.
Fine. That's totally within your right. But you have to acknowledge it's a protest vote that is also a spoil vote. But you acknowledge that, and that's okay. I'm not saying not to do it, but that's what it is. It is not a strategic vote. And certainly, again, in the words of Palestinian American Ruah Roman, not a strategic vote when it comes to the liberation of the Palestinian people.
Yeah.
Honestly, facts.
All right, I'm going to say one last thing. Look, progressives are never going to get into power. And I don't mean in terms of personal power, the presidency, or anything along those lines.
This man sat on this show as the host of the progressive news network, the Young Turks, and endorsed Rick Caruso.
I mean, in terms of passing bills, until they learn how to challenge the establishment. This whole idea of, oh, I'm going to work within the establishment, and here I'll attack Jill Stein, so I'll get some brownie points from the establishment. And I wonder if they'll give me another inch in the next bill. I wonder if they'll give me 2% more in the next bill. That is a terrible strategy.
Again, kind of like when, as Zach said, you endorsed Rick Caruso and then turned around to run for president and all of a sudden gave up your opposition to taking big money. Remember, Cenk begged for billionaire money on Crystal Kyle and friends. He said, hey, I know, theoretically we're opposed to this, but yeah, of course I'll take it. Of course I'll take
support the spirit of campaign finance reform.
It will never work. It's incrementalism. It's everything that we've been fighting against. You have to actually challenge power. And it doesn't look like AOC has any interest in challenging power anymore.
Well,
that's my honest read of it. So maybe Jill Stein's doing it in a way that's not very productive. But,
that's like saying the guy at the fucking end of the road shouting and saying that the rapture's coming is at least he's out here warning people. Like, come on, dude. No, they're not the same thing. It's apples to oranges.
Yeah. I mean, I do totally agree with him that AOC is. I mean, she gave up on challenging power almost as soon as she got to Congress. I mean, even in retrospect, I sat outside Nancy Pelosi's office or something, because like that was the most she ever did. I sat outside Nancy.
We held on to it for a long time.
Yeah, everyone was like, but she sat outside Nancy Pelosi's office. I'm like,
that was me. That was that person.
And I mean, we all wanted to be excited about it. It definitely seemed exciting and fresh, the Justice Democrats and all that stuff. But yeah, AOC has never seriously challenged power other than the literal election in which she was challenging and then beat Joe Crowley. I mean, that technically was a challenge to power that she succeeded in. But ever since then, yeah, she's completely sold out. We've been honest about that from basically the very big, or almost, as soon as we realized what was going on. But I think that can be true. It can also be true what AOC said about Jill Stein and the Green Party. And again, like, I don't love AOC. I don't love giving her credit. I often think she's annoying. I often think she's a poor messenger for even ideas that I agree with. But yeah, I mean, let's be honest, guys. What did she substantively say that was incorrect, other than the fact that Jill Stein was the Green Party's nominee in 2020, which was not correct? That was Howie Hawkins. But still, like, besides just little like, ooh, gotcha around the margins, other than just like tone policing, I don't like that she said predatory and like, other than tone policing and pearl clutching, what did she actually say that was wrong? Not a lot. What she said was a bunch of fucking uncomfortable facts about the Green Party's inability to grow itself into a serious movement or a serious party, even though they've had literally my entire life. The Green Party's been around for my entire life, guys. And it's just one step forward, like 3 steps back.
Yeah. And I forget, I have to remind people, I don't know, we have a lot of international listeners. In America, you only get to have power. You only get to change things. You only get to execute your policy vision if you receive the most votes in an election. Difficult for people to grasp. In the presidential level, you have to win by the most votes by the states, though. Again, rigging, right? So when you ask me about the Party for Socialism or Liberation, why would I be interested in a party that is more niche and less successful than the Green Party when my entire criticism of them is that they have no interest in actually becoming a mainstream political operation, right? They're much more interested in bottlenecking it and keeping it like a fun quilting party, apparently, where every 4 years they do some, it's like the Olympics for them, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. And again, like I don't have any problem with anyone voting their conscience. Lynn Stack said most of our votes don't matter because of the Electoral College. We're free to vote for whoever the fuck we want. So why not now? Do whatever you want, Lynn. 100% vote for Jill Stein. I just had lunch with my parents this morning, and my mom said that she was still planning on voting for Chase Oliver, the Libertarian. And I was like, that's awesome. Might as well. You're voting in Kansas. Who really cares? Might as well vote your conscience. Like I don't think it's something that people should be shamed over. That's why we don't shame people who vote different than us or people that have a different strategy than us. All we ask is that the third party people in return don't act like everyone who disagrees with them is a genocide loving establishment bootlicker, like all this crazy hyperbolic idiocy, when it's very obvious that most people who support Kamala Harris, they really just don't want Donald Trump to be president again. And I don't like being gaslit. It doesn't make me a Rachel Maddow shit lib to say, hey guys, yeah, I think it actually would be better if Kamala and Tim Walz win the election than Donald Trump and JD Vance. The guys who are talking about Haitians eating the dogs. Yeah, I don't want that guy to be president. Sorry.
Absolutely. Shout out to you, Lynn Stack. So of course everybody can vote for whoever the hell they want to. It doesn't matter. What we're out here telling you is that if you vote for the Green Party, like don't expect that that's going to result in anything. They have done nothing but move backwards. Okay, they think the best poll they ever did was like still under 2.5% of the general population vote. That was Ralph Nader. Again, a guy with name recognition who had accomplished a lot of shit. Okay, he wasn't just some guy. Okay, and I understand you could tell me all the things that Jill Stein did. The regular people don't know about. So it's irrelevant in politics, okay? You can find me the best guy in the world. He ain't going to be president.
Yep.
You can find me the nicest woman that's ever lived. Guess what? She'll probably lose every election.
Yep. And if you guys want to see a more serious Green Party movement, watch that documentary about Ralph Nader. It's called An Unserious Man, I believe.
It's a great documentary.
2000s. Fantastic film. It's a great breakdown of that election and of the role that Ralph Nader played in it. It's not necessarily a pro-Nader or anti-Nader movie. It's really just kind of an objective look at that election, interviewing both his supporters and his critics, people from inside and outside of the establishment. But the most interesting thing about that film is not even just the kind of analysis of the election or of the third party movement. It's actually the fact that you get to see what it would look like if there was a vibrant Green Party movement, because it almost looked like Bernie Sanders. If you watch that rally, there was serious rallies happening all across the country with like musical performances and big surrogates, much like Bernie, right? They would have Ralph Nader rallies. Thousands of people would show up. People really, there was an actual appetite for it. And even with all of that, Ralph Nader, how many percentage of the vote did he get?
I think he got like 2.4, maybe slightly
like
less than that.
3% of the vote.
It wasn't 3%.
And Jill Stein has not even 1% of the enthusiasm behind her current campaign that Ralph Nader did at the time. Like I said, I don't even think she's done a single in-person event. I don't think she's had a rally. All of her events are like Zoom calls, and then you join and it's like Nick Cruz and Howie Hawkins or something. And it's like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to punch down on these people. Like, I know that a lot of the Green Party volunteers, their heart's in the right place and all that stuff. But like, I really just think that, you'd be better off spending your time like volunteering at a soup kitchen.
Way better off.
Like, go buy a bottle of water for your local homeless community or something. Like that's I just think it's virtue signaling to pretend like this is serious activism.
LOL, this guy says we're running interference for the me and Gavin from our very fancy studio over here. That's what's so unserious about you. These guys need a political education. They need to understand how to win elections. And in this country, it's not with votes. Okay, we need revolution of the proletariat. It's gonna happen tomorrow if we just all general strike, everyone. Yeah. Anyway, I have a headache, and so I'm being a little mean. I'm sorry.
Zach's headache has turned him into a full-fledged shit lib, guys.
The thing is that what's turned me into a shit lib is the fact that I've decided to live in reality and not LARP for a living. I've decided to look outside and actually talk to people and not want them to be like, do you know when I realized something is like, I really spent 4 years trying to get myself psyched on third parties, man. And I was like, fuck Joe Biden, fuck the Democrats. I voted for them twice. I really don't want to do it again. And they spent 4 years making me reconsider. They spent 4 years helping me change my mind right back. And you guys could be like, I was like, I voted for Hillary. I'm a consistent guy, right? But I was open-minded for a while. And you're right, Gavin. I've closed that for the time being. I've closed my trap is shut. And
like I said, I look forward to taking the third party movement seriously again. When they get their shit together, when they give us something to actually be excited about, when they nominate someone who's not a professional loser, and they actually provide a plan that's believable as far as how they are going to get to, again, at least 5%. Yeah, then it is something serious. I do think the quest for 5% isn't nothing. Federal funding would make the Green Party much more legitimate. But again, even Ralph Nader couldn't get past like 3%, and he had a real movement behind him. He was filling up stadiums, giving rallies, doing in-person events, and again, actually had a movement behind him. And you could still call him a spoiler candidate, but at least there was like something, at least there was a point to it. Like, yeah, sure, you could say he spoiled that election, but at least it was in pursuit of something legitimate, building a real party. In this election, there's nothing like that on the horizon. There is no 5% that we can hope for. Like even in 2016, it kind of felt like, oh, maybe all these disaffected Bernie bros, maybe
that should have been a telltale sign at how people were feeling about the Green Party. Though you take all these people who do want change, who do believe in this corruption, right? But they don't believe in the people who are running the Green Party. And that's a huge problem that the Green Party has never decided to grapple with, right? They don't ever try and make you think that they're serious. They don't ever try and convince you. They just tell you that that's a Kremlin talking point. Racial justice is when you advocate for racial justice, they call that a Kremlin talking point. And I'm like, dude, stop saying that.
Yeah.
Like, it just makes you look so bad. Even when you're right, it makes you look unserious and wrong. Like, and that's a huge problem for me.